Bassem.
Piers.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Kris. This was a donated request from Mohamed, and this is Piers Morgan versus Bassem Youssef, round 2. I did not see round 1. So, I'm just going to pretend like I know everything that they've already said, and let's get into the video.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Last time, obviously, we did it remotely.
Yes.
You were here. I was in London, and you complained that it was an unfair situation. You couldn't see me. Your earpiece kept falling out.
Yes.
So I thought, okay, fair enough. I hear you. I got on a plane. I flew 6,500 miles. And not only that, we're doing it in somewhere that is very familiar to you. It's the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, where you performed many times as a stand-up. So I've done my bit.
You did. But actually, this is not the first time we meet in person.
No. We did originally in London last year.
And I know that many people are watching this for the first time. I would know this, but I would really love to tell the story of that moment, because I was having a tour in the UK and Europe, and I was doing my English stand-up. And one of my, advertising promotion plan was to come on your show. So my agent called me, it's like, Bassem, you're gonna be on Piers Morgan. I said, damn. It's like, what's wrong? It's like, well, Piers Morgan blocked me on Twitter.
I did.
And he said, what did you do? I said, well, during January 6th, the insurrection, you tweeted something about it. And I was so angry at what's happening. And I remember you having you and Donald Trump in a picture. And I said the guy who had Donald Trump with him, whatever. And then I used very harsh words. And of course, you blocked me. And then I said, does he know? I don't know. Does he know? I don't know. Does he know? I don't know. So I walked into the studio, and the moment I was being seated and they're preparing before we go on air, and you said, oh, hi, Bassem. It seems that you have more followers than me, but it seems that I blocked you. Why? And I told you, and then we said the story on air. And it was funny because I made the joke, you have always been standing against cancel culture, and you just canceled me on Twitter. But we agreed that this is not canceling because this is your own space and you're free. But now you're unblocked me, and we're here.
And we're here. And it was, and actually we agreed about January the 6th, by the way, just for the record.
Yeah,
I was done about you, maybe you weren't surprised. I was completely staggered by the response globally to our interview several weeks ago. Were you taken aback by the scale of it?
Yes, of course, but I understand why. For many years, the media covering the Middle East has been showing a certain point of view. I'm not going to say bias, but I would say it did not allow certain voices from the other side to be heard. And that is why you see the frustration. Whenever you speak to people in the Middle East, they tell you the same thing. They're not very happy with the coverage of Middle East because our voices are not heard. Now, I am the least qualified person ever to talk about this conflict. And yet, just because I relate some of the talking points that we say and we hear the whole time, people felt heard. And when people have this feeling, they're happy.
People feel hurt whenever something is said that goes against what they believe. And nowadays, it's not even, you can't have a discussion. I think flowers along the street, along roadways, is beautiful. And somebody else could go, I think it's a waste of time and taxpayer money. They cannot have a discussion. Now, granted, that was a very small, nothing debate, but once in the climate now, to me it seems, when you say something, and I'm guilty of this on some things, so once somebody says something that is against what you believe, you shut out all rational ability to ask the person, well, why do you think that way? And that person already is angry with what you said, so they're responding, and yet angrily responding in a way, well, you're wrong because da-da-da. Everyone is set up for conflict, verbal conflict, and arguing and going back and forth. No one is set up for discussion. Because to me, having a discussion risks you having your opinion and your thoughts and opinions on a certain topic changed. Because somebody else says, yeah, but you didn't take into consideration this, and da-da-da, and you sit there and go, that's a valid point. I didn't think about that. No one can admit that in today's time, because admitting that makes you weak. And I think it makes you stronger, because you're able to somebody who's closed-minded is just they're gonna say you're wrong because A, B, C, D, E. And then they're just when you respond, this is all they're doing. They might as well just be doing this. La 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 la. And then when you stop moving your mouth, then they chime in. They didn't care about what you said. They didn't listen to a word of it. Got to cough again. They didn't listen to a word you said because I don't care. They just want to get their talking points out and not listen to anything you say, because that would be weak. And when you teach people that a discussion is I'm right 100% of the time, you're wrong because you don't agree, you're not allowing the intake of other ideas. And it's sad because it's a common thing. And there are subjects that I'm guilty of that I feel like I am 100% accurate on. Am I the greatest human being to ever walk the planet? Yes! That's not a discussion. It's 100% accurate according to this mind. Okay, that's not true. But, there are things that I'm certainly like, yeah, no, I won't negotiate with a terrorist on that one. And I mean by terrorist, I won't negotiate with anybody who's against my opinion on certain subjects. That's how I view them. And it's wrong. Because the older I get, the more open I am to other ideas. But we're not allowed to have those open moments where you learn more. As I was saying earlier, I got a cough again, sorry. I was sick like 2 weeks ago. Sick for like 3 days. And now it's like 2 weeks of coughing and blowing your nose repeatedly. Getting sick is so stupid. Because it's so quick. And then it takes your body so long to get rid of things. It's annoying. Back to what I was saying, I apologize. A stubborn person in an argument, you're never going to have an argument with them because they don't care about what you have to say. They have everything that they have believed is right. If you have a discussion with a genius, somebody who's really smart, that person might listen to what you say and say, okay, I see this, but this right here I have a problem with because, and they're not saying wrong, 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 right here, wrong, 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 wrong. They're taking everything together and they're saying, okay, yes, yes, no. They're willing to give and take. And when I run into those people, I'm like, yeah, I could have a discussion with those people. But everyone else, it's just like, and unfortunately, I will mentally push those people aside like, well, I can't take you serious. But I should want to engage with those people. I should want to try to chip away at that wall so that I can understand them. Some people you will never understand. They're batshit insane. They believe what they believe. There's no helping them. So I apologize for that long-winded.
They have this response. They said, oh my God, for the first time, the West are actually hearing our point of view. Some of the point of view might not go well with other people, but at least we have a conversation. And I think that is the reason why people reacted that way. Yeah.
It's such an incendiary subject matter. I've never seen social media so ablaze with hostility on both sides. Did you actually, as well as enormous praise from the Arab world, did you also get criticized by some parts of the Arab world for not going perhaps hard enough?
Oh, you didn't do that, you didn't do that. The thing is, this is like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Right.
If you don't speak up, why don't you speak up? If you speak up, you didn't speak up enough. If you're done, why are you? If you speak up too much, oh, you're taking all the attention on you. And I love that fact, because people always who accuse people of being the center of attention, they are actually not very happy that the attention is not on them. This is actually like a rule on social media. But yeah, there was a backlash, but there's also a backlash from the other side, which I mean, here and other comedy clubs, I worked with people from all kinds of different backgrounds, Jewish, Christians, Muslims, Arabs, atheists, all kinds of people. And there are a lot of people who went to my socials like, oh, so you're a terrorist sympathizer now, you know? And I think it is important to have a nuanced, deep, interesting, intelligent conversation. A lot of people waiting for this are kind of like, yeah, Bassem, bury Piers, show him. And this is the problem with the news today. The problem is the news today, it's not about the news anymore. It's about the people giving you the news. So it becomes a show, a circus. Two gladiators in the Colosseum, two pigs fighting in the mud. And this is why people don't get anything out of it. It's a circus.
You know, one of the things I heard a lot was, who is this guy? And they weren't talking about me.
Sometimes I wonder.
Now, obviously, you're very, very well known in the Arab world. You're known as the kind of, they called you the Arab Jon Stewart, and you're well known in America, but you weren't that well known, for example, in the UK. And I think what this interview did, it made a lot of people think, wow, all right, this is incredible, but tell me more about Bassem Youssef. And I did a bit of research into your life, and it is a fascinating journey that you've gone on to get here to Los Angeles. And I think it's worth just taking a little beat here to talk about this, because you began in Cairo as a heart surgeon. I mean, that was your career path.
Yes.
And you were a heart surgeon.
I was a heart surgeon until, I spent 19 years in that career, 7 years in medical school, 12 years as a practicing doctor. And 2011 happened, and the revolution happened, and I had my own show on YouTube. I did like small videos.
Well, I'm going to come to this, because I was by coincidence, I had just joined CNN to replace the great Larry King. And I hadn't actually done any live show. I'd done a few weeks since I joined of taped interviews with big names, Donald Trump, Oprah Winfrey, things like that. And I was flying back to Los Angeles when I got a message that Egypt was going up in the start of the Arab Spring. And I actually went to a studio very near here, about a mile down the road on Sunset, the CNN studio, the old Larry King studio. And I went live for the first time, and it was about the Arab Spring, and it was about what was happening in Egypt. And at the same time, you, in Egypt, were actually in Tahrir Square, helping wounded protesters, actually medically treating them.
I mean, this was a kind of movement that inspired a lot of Egyptians. At the time, I was in the hospital, and a lot of people just had volunteered, and the nurses were just like giving us like supplies, go, and we were going there, and we were basically tending to the wounded, because it is, and it kind of gives you a different perspective when you see helpless, defenseless people who are not armed, who are being beaten by security forces, military forces, being shot, being, hurt. And all we can do is just like provide some medical attention. And it kind of gives you a perspective to see how humanity sometimes can show its most ugly face.
And the suppression of free speech, freedom of expression. The ability of people to say what they honestly feel about a situation. And the suppression of people's basic rights to freedom.
Absolutely, And that kind of like taught me a lot, and inspired me to do the show. But
well, you start. I mean, it's a crazy story, this, and I want to tell it, because you just decided to do 5-minute stuff on YouTube. And you were expecting a few people to watch it. And then literally it just flies, and suddenly you're getting millions of people watching this. And very quickly, one of the big networks comes in, and then you're suddenly doing this stuff for 30 to 40 million people. Like a third of the entire population of Egypt is tuning in to watch it. You're the biggest star of Egyptian television.
Oh, please.
Well, you were.
Don't stop.
I mean, what an extraordinary thing, though, for a heart surgeon to go from helping protesters medically in Tahrir Square, the start of the Arab Spring, to within a year, you're the biggest star on Egyptian television. It's a crazy thing.
It doesn't sound as glamorous as this. It felt horrible.
Did it? Why?
Oh, yeah. overnight fame, this
Scary.
size, it's toxic. Terrible, terrible. It corrupts. It goes into your soul, and it's not good. It's not. I actually didn't enjoy it. And the worst part about it is that like you're trying to do comedy in very controversial climate about very controversial issues. So you'll never satisfy people. And the problem is that people have these expectations. Oh, if you are successful in this, you must be successful at solving this. And when things are not solved, because politics, as you know, very difficult to solve, that expectation, this love turns into hate. And this is one of many reasons that like, I had to leave and I came here eventually.
Well, let's just take people through what happened, because
Yes.
they probably don't know, a lot of people. So during the presidency of Mohamed Morsi, who was a democratically elected Islamist, you had relative freedom to start, but then the more you went after government propaganda, the more you stood up for the people against the government, then the trouble started. Morsi wanted to shut you up. You eventually get dragged through the courts.
I was arrested. I was arrested for one day. It was a warrant for my arrest, and then I turned myself in, and I was interrogated, and it was the funniest interrogation ever. And in my stand-up shows, I talk about that scene.
Because the guards were reading the stuff out and laughing, right?
Well, the guards were taking selfies with me, which is funny.
Right.
and the exchange between me and the prosecutor, general prosecutor, was extremely funny. I mean, I don't like to victimize myself. I don't like, oh, look at that. I actually like to find humor.
But why were you arrested? What was the criteria?
Oh yeah, I think the list was insulting Islam, insulting the president, spreading false rumors, and disrupting the fabric of society. And it was, I think the people in the room didn't know what to do with me because they ended up discussing my jokes. So it turned into a writer's room. And I was kind of like, how do you think we make this funnier? And it was the funniest exchange ever. And after 6 hours, I was let go. And
was it scary though at the same time that suddenly the machinery was getting a grip of you? Because it was to get a lot scarier. But was it in that moment when you first got arrested, you thought, I'm being arrested for breaching my freedom of speech, right?
For some reason, I just like went with the flow. I went to the interrogation wearing the big hat. I went to the show. It was just, I just wanted this to be a farce because I just like, you're really coming after the comedian. And I just tried to enjoy myself, but.
You feel like the whole thing is a mockery. And so when he says he showed up with a big hat, I would totally have showed up, shown up, whatever the word is, in a funny outfit or a big fake wig, powdered wig. I would have shown up to make a mockery of it. Now, the judge would have thought I was insulting the court, and it's just like, well, you're insulting me by having me here for all of this. So I'm doing the same. I'm just giving the same respect back to the court as the police gave me. So yeah, it's got to be insulting, but you know, if they can't see it for what it is, then they're just as guilty of making a mockery of it.
But deep inside, I was dying.
Well, you actually, it gets serious enough where you may have died, because actually Morsi gets, of course, deposed. In comes General El-Sisi in a coup, a military coup, and he doesn't find satire a laughing matter, particularly when the jokes are about him. You get blocked. They literally block your show from airing.
I aired one episode, and it's interesting. This is a very interesting story because the first episode that was aired after the removal of the Muslim Brotherhood, everybody was waiting to see what I will say. Because by that time, all of the Islamic channels that were, I mean, like me and Islamic channel, like it's like they had 5 channels and they were like me and them going like that. They had like 5 channels that have only 1 hour a week. And then they were removed. And then a lot of the other dissident voices were also being shut down. Now, people are waiting. What will Bassem say? And on the day that the show aired, the next day I went out and everybody like, good, at least somebody is speaking. It was a very controversial episode. Nobody liked it. And yet everybody liked it. Because people said like, you're supporting the coup. No, you're the Muslim Brotherhood. everybody accused me of something. All I did in that episode was just being a mirror of what is happening in the street and showing them how ridiculous it is.
You didn't take a fixed position.
Well, my position, depending on what's your position?
What did you intend your position to be?
My position was to show the ridiculousness of how the people now was like, oh, we got rid of Islamic fascism, but we are heading towards another fascism. There was a song that I did that was very controversial. People, and it's very funny, the pro-Muslim Brotherhood thought that this is a disrespect to the people who died. And on the other side, the people said that this is a disrespect to the army. And when you manage to offend everybody, you know you're right.
Yes.
And then the people in the middle, it's like, oh, you weren't tough enough. And I was told, it's like, why didn't you go after? The ceiling of freedom just went down. And I was just like, it is very difficult to go against an authority that was very popular at the time.
And especially a military authority with
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of experience
Oh, yeah.
of weaponizing these situations.
Yeah.
You had death threats.
People will always choose, most of the time, they will always choose the military form rather than the religious form because they kind of like, at least they are not infringing on my personal freedom. Not yet. But
You had threats on your life, didn't you?
oh, all the time. I don't talk about that because like I have been having death threats like never stopped since 2011. Never stopped.
Have they continued since our last interview?
Oh yeah, they never stop.
People threatening to kill you?
All the time.
Why? For what reason?
Oh, for just saying something that they don't like. Oh, because you are against Egypt, you're against Islam, you're against our president, you're against God. It never stops. It never stops.
It doesn't bother you?
I mean, if you die, you die. You know, if you die, you die. I mean, since when, whatever, like, no bodyguards deflected a bullet. You know, maybe the guy who was with Ronald Reagan. But
Yeah.
I think it's like whatever. Even like at a certain point, I actually had like private security. And then I told them I can't. I cannot live like that. If that's my destiny, if I die, I'll just die.
You end up with your lawyer saying you got to get out of here. You got to get out of Egypt. It's
Yeah.
getting-
I'm going to go back to him saying, if I die, I die. Nope. Nope. We'll go to there. Okay. So I'm going to end this here. This is part one. Looks like this is going to be a 7-parterino. Parteruski. So, there's a thanks button. You can donate to the channel. You don't have to. All donations are appreciated. You can subscribe if you haven't. Give a thumbs up. That helps just as much. If you can't donate, that helps just as much on the YouTube side with the algorithm. And if you're a thumbs down person, there's this new game that YouTube has where they get about 100 of the sickest YouTubers, and these people just cough and blow their nose into this big pot, and then people who give thumbs downs, you get recommended, where there's two choices. One, we grab you by your legs and we dunk your head into the vat of mucus, or it is thinned out and given into an IV. It's injected into your system. It's hilarious. So until next time, you have a good day, have a good night.